It's Tuesday, May 26th, 2020. It must have seemed like a bad B movie yesterday when we were talking about burying things alive and having them come back to haunt you. I hope that you understood that we were referring to those times when you say that since I'm never going to have what I want, I'll just stop wanting. And we're not talking about those times when, on occasion, we find ourselves at a loss because we can't have something that we really wanted. We're talking about those times when we've tried and tried and tried to find something that will take away the pain of the emptiness inside, and over again we've gotten what we want, only to realize that that was not what we wanted after all. And when that happens repeatedly, that's when we're inclined to say, I'm never going to get what I want. That's when we figure out that there's no point to wanting things, because experience has taught us that wanting something and then going to get it is the shortest path to failure and disappointment. And that's when we reach the conclusion that it's easier not to want than it is to want and be disappointed. So we just decide that if I can't have what I want, I'll just stop wanting. But the longing to fill the emptiness within us is impossible to kill, so the only option that seems open to us is to commit emotional suicide and bury our desires alive, and we're okay for a few weeks until that desire comes back to haunt us. And that's why we've been trying to say that there is a better way. God put that desire within you. He designed you with a vacuum in your soul, a vacuum that only He can fill. He did that intentionally, not to cause you pain, but to draw you to Himself. He designed you with that vacuum so that you would invite Him to fill it. That's why you can't make the longing go away, the desire go away. The only solution for you is to stop flopping around like a fish out of water and let God fill that void by helping you to understand how much He loves you. I know that you're desperate, because we're all desperate. But I don't want that desperation to destroy you, and neither does God. I want with all my heart today to remind you that you already have what you so desperately will want. You already have what you so desperately long for. God, the most wondrous being in the universe, loves you deeply and is totally committed to you. He cannot love you more. He will not love you less. He's done all that He can to make that clear to you, and that broken, bleeding form on the cross of Calvary speaks more eloquently than I ever could. The hymn writer has borrowed from Christ's teaching to paint a beautiful picture. He says this: there were 99 that safely lay in the shelter of the fold, but one was off on the hills away, far off from the gates of gold. Lord, you have here your 99. Are they not enough for thee? But the shepherd answered, this of mine has wandered away from me, and although the road be rough and steep, I go to the desert to find my sheep. The next verses of the song tell about the lengths the shepherd went to as he searched for and finally found his sheep, and it's the last verse that speaks so powerfully to me. But none of the ransomed ever knew how deep were the waters crossed, nor how dark was the night that our Lord went through before He found His sheep that was lost. You were that lost sheep. And Jesus spent His life and gave His life pursuing you. His love is limitless, it's unconditional, it's immeasurable, and it is indestructible. I'd like to ask you to take off your thinking caps for a moment. Not because I'm in favor of you not thinking, but because I don't want you to blow a fuse. I don't want you to hurt yourself, but I do want you to try to imagine something with me. Science tells us that there are about 100 billion stars in the average galaxy, and that there are about 100 million galaxies in known space. Einstein, who was right about a lot of stuff, theorized that we can actually only see about 1/billionth of what's actually there. What that means is that you could take a calculator and multiply 100 billion times 100 million times 1 billion, and that would roughly get you the total number of stars in the universe. Although this is where the thinking caps part comes in, because by the time you enter that equation, 1 billion times 100 million times 100 billion, all your calculator will do is give up. And I know that because the calculator on my iPhone just says 1E28, and you have to turn it sideways to even get it to do that. What that means is There are about 10 octillion stars in the universe, give or take. And the way that you would write that number is to write a 10 and then a comma and then 27 zeros with a comma between every 3 zeros. In other words, you have to write a really big number. If it helps you to picture it, then we can say that there are more stars in the universe than there are individual grains of sand on all the seashores of all the world. And the universe is so big that many stars of that massive a size fill up the universe in much the same way that the individual particles of dust floating in the air fill up the room that you're sitting in right now. Remarkably, the stars, which are the largest things in the universe, also happen to be the most numerous things in the universe. And I don't know whether to tell you to put your thinking caps back on or not just yet, but on the edge of that immensity sits the one from whose fingertips the universe fell. On the edge of that immensity sits the one who, according to the Psalms, knows the name of every one of those 10 octillion stars. He sits on the edge of that immensity and he looks across it. And he sees our galaxy, the Milky Way. And along the edge of one of the arms of our galaxy, surrounded by nearly 200 billion other stars, he sees our sun. And in orbit around our sun, he sees planet Earth. And on planet Earth, he sees the continent on which you live. And on that continent, he sees the country where you live. And in that country, he sees the state and city where you live. And in that place, he sees you. You. Right where you are, right now. And he says, you know, I have always loved you. And I have always wanted you to be my very own. He loves you unconditionally. And he's the only one who ever really will. He wants a stronger, deeper, more committed relationship with you. In previous of these daily talks, I've challenged you to just sit back and accept God's love. Now, today, I want to challenge you to join me in a lifelong pursuit so that we, together with all the saints, might grasp how wide and long and high and deep is the love of Christ, and to know this love that surpasses knowledge. To quote the passage that we've been considering these many weeks. I want you to turn your back on your wrong thinking. I urge you to confess in the presence of the Lord that you've been looking for love in all the wrong places. I want you to ask him to open your eyes and help you to see how much he loves you. Our time is nearly up for today, and then we have one more day on this topic. I know that most of us are back to work and no longer sheltering in place, and that means good things for our economy, but it can mean less than good things for us as individuals and as families as we push the default button and rush right back into our hectic schedules. I hope that you won't let that happen. I hope that you'll be discerning, and that as you part with the worst of what it means to shelter in place, I hope that you'll retain the best of what happened to us during this time. I hope that you'll be able to get out with friends and family even as you get back to work. I hope that you'll start giving out free hugs to those who need them. I hope that you'll make time to be quiet during part of every day. I hope that you'll learn to treasure family time more than you ever did before. I hope that you'll focus less on the things that are going to get your child a scholarship and more on the things that will help prepare your child for the dark nights of the soul that he or she will surely encounter. I hope that in the midst of the busyness, you'll make time to be a family and love one another. Spend some time in prayer and ask God to guide you as you get busy with not the old normal and not the new normal, but with the other normal that has become possible because of all the things you've learned from sheltering in place. Let's talk again tomorrow, one more time.